Yo, welcome back guys. This is Victor with the Stereo Untypical. As promised, I wanted to give you guys my take on episode 1 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Spoilers included, so be warned, we'll be talking about things that happened in the episode. So if you haven't seen it, maybe tune out. Alright, so let's get started. So, just being honest, it looks like we've got a really solid show on our hands. Within the first few minutes, we're thrown into a big action piece with Sam being still very much in the fight. It's later confirmed that he's been working with the US Air Force for about 5 to 6 months. Right off the bat, this is super interesting to me because when he was introduced in the Winter Soldier, he made it clear that he was content with being out of the action, and the only time when he really got back into the action was to help Captain America. And that was pretty much his journey over the course of the entirety of the MCU. Now, with Cap gone, we still see Sam in the fight. And I think his reason why is going to be very telling about Sam's growth as a character going forward. I mean, is he just in the fight because he's capable? Or is he honor bound? Does he feel some personal responsibility for the state of the world? I think that's going to be very interesting to see going forward. Shortly after, we're introduced to Lieutenant Torres, who gives us a little exposition about an antagonist group called the Flag Smashers, and it seems like he's Sam's personal connection to the military. However, I'm not completely convinced that he can be trusted. Later reveals in the episode allude to the fact that the US as a whole may not trust its American-based Avengers. So I think it'll be interesting to see how their relationship changes over the course of the series. Now, in a surprising turn that I'm completely okay with, the rest of the episode is removed from the big action scenes and instead takes time to focus on Sam and Bucky's personal lives. As anticipated, Bucky is pardoned by the US. He's in therapy, focusing on reconciliation. And not only that, he's struggling, ultimately just trying to redefine himself. He seems to be really haunted by his past. He has a lot of blood on his hands, including the blood of an innocent man. Specifically, this episode shows him trying to interact with that man's father, Mr. Nakajima, and it's heavily implied that he intends to ease the father's pain by telling him the truth about his son's murder. It's pretty heavy stuff, but by the end of the episode, we see he's unable to check the man's name off of his list of amends. And I don't know about you guys, but when they showed the list, Zemo's name was definitely on that same list. And I have strong feelings that his interactions with Zemo are not going to be as loving and tender as they were with Mr. Nakajima. Meanwhile, for the first time in the MCU, we get to see a little bit of Sam's hometown, alluding to his backstory, which is one of the things I was hoping to see. It looks like this version of the character is from Delacroix, Louisiana, and I'm pretty sure they took a page from Anthony Mackie's book because the original Falcon is from New York and Anthony Mackie is actually from Louisiana. Now, personally, I'm okay with changing Sam's backstory. I think a lot of black characters from Marvel Comics and just comics in general have kind of fallen into these strange tropes. Sam in the comics started out as a career criminal and later became the Falcon, so it's kind of cool to see them just kind of move away from that trope in favor of more dynamic storytelling. With that being said, I wanted to quickly talk about some of the social significance of different themes that I picked up on the episode and just different connections that I made. The first thing being, we see Sam code switch and acknowledge race. When speaking to his sister, he says, "You know I don't play with these white folks." And it's a playful little jab because it's in reference to them going to the bank to apply for a business loan. And Sam clearly doesn't want to be late, as if it's going to affect his eligibility. It's subtle, but I do think it's the show warming up the audience for some potential conversations about race in America. I think it's a risky topic to engage in, but I am interested to hear Marvel's take on race relations through the eyes of its heroes. As I said before, media is always going to reflect society, so it'll be interesting to kind of see what Marvel's take and what lines they're willing to cross and which ones they're not. Personally, I'm big on public discourse. I believe that if we have opposing views, one of the best things that we can do is come to a common place and at least hear each other out. But if 2020 has showed us anything, as Americans, we don't all see eye to eye on racial issues in our country. And the moment you take a stance, it becomes very hard for those with opposing views to hear anything you have to say. But I could be reading too much into this. It was a small line. I think time will tell. Also dealing with race, I found it interesting that Bucky, who is a World War II vet, was shown having positive relations with Japanese American people. I found this significant because the US was relatively late to join World War II. However, Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor played a big role in America deciding to join the war. It was also used as a recruiting tool for many Americans. Yet we see Bucky playing Battleship with a Japanese woman on his date. If anything, I interpret it as a sign that Bucky was unbothered and not harboring any ill will towards any particular groups. But I don't know. I'm interested if you guys picked up on that, or if you have different thoughts, or what you think Disney's angle may be, or if it's just mere coincidence. The other thing that I picked up on was Bucky and Sam are both veterans, and I can easily see them being an analog for some of the things our veterans may experience, whether it be financial, mental, or social struggles. There are a lot of little nods to these type of ideas. Specifically, Bucky isn't crazy about his therapist or her rules and her overall decorum. Sam is both celebrated and insulted by his tone-deaf banker who denies him a loan. Also, the US accepts Sam's donation of the shield and turns around only to showcase a new Captain America using Sam's shield. And when I say Sam's shield, I do mean Sam's shield. Quick reminder, Thanos cut Cap's shield in half. The next shield that we see is given to Sam directly from Cap after coming back from his time heist. And it's clearly a different shield. Cap's shield was smooth. You can kind of see that Sam's shield has engravings. Honestly, to me, it looks like it can open up. So maybe there's a map or something. I don't know. It looks like Sam's shield can open up. Now, some of my predictions prior to the show were actually right, which was kind of cool to see. But I also was not right on some of them, and Marvel has actually once again surprised me. Prior to the show, I didn't think that Sam would be past the mantle of Captain America. I thought, maybe he would use the shield and the mantle would be shared between him and Bucky, but within the first minutes of the episode, they're really making reference to the fact that the shield belongs to Sam and Cap intended for Sam to actually carry the mantle. It's directly alluded to by Don Cheadle's character. So I'm really interested to see how Marvel's going to warm up the audience or just transition into Sam taking on the role. Overall, I thought this was a really great episode. I think it's a great start to a new series. They gave us a little bit of action just to get us ready. I feel like they gave us some things to think about, and I'm really interested in hearing what Marvel has to say throughout the course of this series. So I'm also interested to hear what you guys have to say. If you saw things that maybe I didn't mention, or if you think that something else that happened in the episode may have a different meaning or more significance, let me know in the comments. But hey, that's all I have for you guys today. This is Victor with the Stereo Untypical. I'm out. Peace.